every 10 or 15 years, a film is produced that is so overwhelming, so forceful in its impact, that it becomes deeply embedded in the mind.
Persons under 18 will not be admitted.
This is Kenny Lee Lewis from the Steve Miller Band.
Hey, what's up? This is Jeremy Palco from The Walking Dead, and this is Still Toking with.
Hey everybody, this is Anson Williams, and I'm going to be on Still Toking with on Dorkening Podcast Network. Be there.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. We have very active lifestyles. It's not all wandering the countryside aimlessly or scaring passing motorists. And we all love a good cup of joe. And there's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. Bold, robust, delicious. It's coffee that can wake the dead. With over a dozen different roasts and flavors, Deadly Grounds can satisfy the most finicky of coffee addicts. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey, happy Wednesday, everybody. You're watching Still Toking with, and I think this is going down in history as the first episode. I did not hit the wrong button.
Yet.
Yeah.
It's early.
So far, it is. So my name's Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard. I might have said that already, but as always, Benjamin, how's it going, bud?
Fucking awesome. I'm actually really, really pumped for tonight.
Oh, same here.
But I heard another voice, so I'll let you go to him before you come back to me for the introduction.
Yeah, he popped in mid.
Lucky you, I hear voices all the time, not just once in a while.
Well, yeah,
so,
usually it's either Jeff's voice I hear, and now it's yours. I mean, I'm not sure. It's just, yeah, it's a really freaky thing, I'll tell you.
Well, Jeremy, when you hear your voices, do you also summon a suit that turns white? And
I wish that would be way cooler. Like life would be so much sweeter, but representation, right? Huh?
And now we are working out already.
Ben, did you get the reference?
No. Yeah.
Moon Knight, we're geeks. Sorry.
It's all good. But yeah, like I said, I'm super pumped.
Oh, Ben.
Go ahead. Back to Jar Jar.
I don't have your signature on this.
Open that book. It's on the inside.
Is it on the inside?
Check this out. The first 100.
That's my problem. I never open comic books.
Nope. The first 100 that we had printed, we told Joe that we wouldn't sign the cover. We would only sign the inside.
Ah.
And then after that, he looked at us. He said, "You're the creators. Sign the damn cover. Don't be a fan." I was like, "Wow." All right. So now we sign. The cover.
Where on the inside would you have signed it?
Right on the inside. So you probably don't have it signed by me then.
No signature.
Look at that. That tells you how much I liked you back then.
I know. I don't even know how to put it up the right way. I got a broken arm. I shouldn't be doing that.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. Next time we're around, Jeremy, bring it. We'll sign it for you.
Oh no, now I don't want it signed. I have a virgin copy. I'm kind of, this is probably worth more since your hands haven't been on it.
Oh, my hands were on it, but I won't tell you where they were before they were on it. So anyway, enough about
maybe
that,
more than his hands,
because I don't want our guest to pass.
Oh yeah, this isn't about us.
No. I mean, when we tell you that we get guests from all over the world,
over the world.
We've had guests from Australia and the UK, but tonight we have somebody coming to us from Istanbul, Turkey.
Like
it's like 2:00 in the fucking morning over there.
Oh,
people.
damn.
So if he's
I didn't
awake
even
for the
think
show,
about the time difference.
you guys need to be awake for the show. I know, right? But I don't want to keep him waiting any longer because I really don't want him to fall asleep on us.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
Welcome the amazingly awesome Demir Barlas.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Good evening.
Yeah. Good evening to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
I was trying to wrap that up quick. But no, thank you for taking time out to come on and chat with us about, the amazing stuff that you've been doing. And
my pleasure.
So just for our viewers and listeners, you may hear a slight delay, and that's because he is coming to us, like I said, from Istanbul, Turkey. So it's not like he's freaking next door, like, Leo.
Hey, no, I never mind.
That's what I thought. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. I was born actually in Pakistan in 1973. Immigrated to the U.S. with my mom. She was a single mom in 1983. Turned 10 in Times Square when it was still dangerous, which I remember, which is a lot of fun. And for my 10th birthday, I remember she was kind enough to let me watch Return of the Jedi twice in a movie theater in Times Square. Yeah. She was very, very good about that. Anyway, after that, I grew up in Denver. I was in Denver from 1983 to 1991 when I graduated high school. Went to Ithaca, New York. Went to Cornell University there. After graduation, went to UCLA Film School. I was in LA for 7 years trying to sell a script. Came close a couple times, so didn't do it. Worked there as a reporter.
Did it work?
Yeah, no, I wish, man. I wouldn't be sitting in this apartment if it did. Let me tell you that.
Evening, Rich.
But right? No, it was still a good experience. I got married in 2003. Moved back to Ithaca in must have been 2006. Had a long career there as sort of a data scientist. So statistical analysis is what I did, like freelance for folks. And I've been writing off and on, for a long time. I wrote my first novel when I was still at Cornell in must have been 1994, I think. But I didn't get back into writing until sort of later in my career after we'd had kids. I'd had twins. And just something I think about being a parent made me just want to connect more with sort of people. And it sort of made me think about stuff I hadn't done yet,
Right.
So it really changed my writing style, having kids. And just thinking in the future, I want my kids to kind of be geeks like me too. So like, I want to write stuff that I would want them to read, which I didn't think was sort of out there. So I was like looking long-term. Right. So,
Right.
I finished up my first book, which was The God Complex. And I think I put that up on Amazon in, I think in 2020, sometime a couple of years back. And I just finished Kali, which was my last book last year. So yeah, I've done that. My first book is pretty much straight science fiction with a dollop of fantasy, and Kali, my second one, is pretty much horror. I think, yeah, you could call it horror / chick lit, which I think is an interesting mix. We can talk about that.
I just want to give a big round of applause to Justin with the They Might Be Giants reference.
Yeah, I saw
that. Okay. I was trying to.
I was really trying to keep the dork out of it, folks. I'm sorry.
He can't. He's
a geek. He's a geek. Like, this is not fair. You can't keep the dork out of this one.
No.
I read all of. I've only been knowing that I was going to do this for about 4 hours. So in that 5 hours, but in that 5 hours time, I read a lot about you, and I was going to make the reference, since this is Still Toking and all that. You've lived in 3 places of the greatest marijuana cannabis things. You got Afghani Kush, Colorado, one of the first places in America to legalize, and now it's in Turkey, one of the places known for their hashish.
I was just going to say, yeah, Turkey's more known for their hashish.
Yeah. But congratulations. I don't know.
I didn't even realize that.
But my first question, growing up in the 70s here from Afghanistan, you were about 10 years old when you moved over, right?
I was 9 and turned 10. Yeah, in New York City.
Yeah.
That's right.
How was that, like, culture shock wise? Like, going
Yeah, it
from
was.
I don't know really the culture in Afghanistan. I'm not up to date, but like, how is the difference going from, because at 10 you have memories of being back there. It wasn't like you came over at like 2 or 3.
Oh, I do absolutely. I was in Pakistan actually, not probably about 200 miles south of the Afghan
Oh,
border.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, yeah. Well, I was, when I was a kid, I lived with my grandparents because my mom had gotten divorced, and I grew up in a family with my grandparents, my mom, my 2 aunts, and my uncle. So there's a lot of people there. I didn't go out of the house too much. I was pretty much a housebound kid, and read a ton of books and played with my toys. That's the kind of person I was. But when I went to New York City, we went straight to Queens because my mom had an internship at the UN, and so
Oh,
they put her up
nice.
in a hotel in Queens.
Very cool.
And so that was huge because I went from being inside a house in the city where I barely went outside. So I
Yeah.
didn't have much of an idea even what was out the door, to going straight to New York City, and nobody else was there. So like my whole extended family was sort of gone. And during the day, my mom would go to the UN, and I would watch like these strange channels that would play like kung fu karate movies like all day long, pretty
Nice.
much. That's what I did. That's what I
Very
did with
cool.
my time. But I mean, I just remember that feeling of opening the hotel window and just being outside this gigantic city, and going from being like a recluse, like a kid who was like in an HP Lovecraft story, right? Like growing up in the Arkham house where he never left, to like being in the middle of like this metropolis. It was exciting. I mean, it was a
I
little
gotta
bit scary,
imagine.
but
Yeah.
I still remember like it was exciting, you know?
And you came over in the 80s, so like, w- New York
Bad
at that
haircut.
time is just crazy. Like, New York City in the 80s
Yes, and that
was
was like a
what?
big thing too, because like
Punk.
I remember
We
it
we we
was
just
absolutely,
talked
and
about.
and what I remember is when we had to go through Times Square, and what I remember is my mom used to cover my eyes because there used to be like all these like porno theaters there,
Oh
and I was
yeah.
still like very sheltered. She'd
Coin
always
op.
say, "Oh, let me just cover your eyes, while we walk through here." So I remember that.
How many times did you trip and fall though?
Oops.
Well, I don't think I ever did. I don't remember doing that. I was pretty nimble.
I was gonna say New York in the '80s. We just talked about this like last week. Jeremy, were you on the show with us covering New York Ninja?
No, I don't think so.
No, it was like an '80s movie that just got finished, and we had a big discussion about how bad New York was in the '80s, and I remember my mom and brother brought me down to Disney World in the '80s, and we drove through New York. I remember seeing like burning cars and stuff like that. It was like, yeah, it was New York in the '80s was bad.
I think it was all in your head. I'm just saying.
I remember.
Just saying. But anyways,
are you still in data science, or along with writing,
Yeah, I
or
mean, that's how I make my money. But the thing is, like, there a lot of years when my kids were young, and I'm divorced now from their mom. But when they were really young, I used to work 7 days a week, like 365 days a year, because she wasn't working then, and just to make the money, I'd be working like 14-hour days, like regularly. Now it's like, because also I'm divorced, I don't have those expenses, and I'm living. It's just me and my fiance and her dog now, and in a very cheap country. I just work maybe 4 to 6 hours a day,
oh
and
wow,
I try to save the rest of the time for my books, for my fiction, for
nice.
marketing, and also just like quality of life stuff. Like
Oh yeah.
I go to the gym a lot. I love training, so I spend time doing that. I'm a math hobbyist. I really love math. That's something I do even outside of like having to do it as a statistician and reading. So
You
I'm
mean you
really
sit
doing this as a.
there and like pull out a math book and you're like 5,900 divided by 12, and you just sit there and do math for fun?
Actually, sometimes I do. Yeah, like with my
wow.
iPad, I do. My favorite type of math is integral calculus. It's what I love more than anything. It's just, like I was trying to explain why I love it, and particularly I think like when my marriage was going bad, and also when I knew I was heading towards divorce, it's like one of those things that reminded me that there's order. It's almost like it's a good reminder that there's all these little puzzles and they can each be solved, and then you sort of move on to the next one. Whereas writing, it gives me a different satisfaction. It's very open-ended, and sometimes writing stirs up my trauma, and writing maybe makes me feel worse before it makes me feel better.
Right.
So it's nice to have like those kinds of hobbies, or when I go to the gym, where it's like it's routine. I know what I'm going to lift, and it's a world of like numbers and solutions. I think it's all part of like that balance. And I think maybe sometimes this is a gender thing. I think men sometimes tend to like over embrace that, like like whether it's like sports or whether it's math or engineering, they'll completely vanish into that world. And from my experience, also growing up, the girls and the women that I've known, they'll kind of jump into literature and sort of the world of emotion a little bit more. And I think one of the things that differentiates me as a writer is that I'm equally committed to both of those worlds. So like, I'm not like
Right.
an Isaac Asimov type where it's like it's just all the science and there's no characters. My characters are often their mothers, single mothers, women, it's I don't have like the classic science fiction horror guy heroes, so like that's also part of my thing, I think.
Justin just said they just said that calculus was relaxing on the last episode of Picard, and he also asked, "What's the best show on
Oh, I
Turkish
didn't know
TV?"
that.
Oh, that is a good question.
Well,
Yeah.
I can answer that. It's actually they have this show, and I'm not going to give the Turkish. It's too hard for you guys to pronounce, but it's called Make Me Laugh, basically. And it's a 2-hour
really?
sketch comedy show that's like really absurdist. Yeah, it's like absurdist humor. Like imagine like really crazy early Saturday Night Live sketches, but they go on for 20, 30 minutes at a time. So they're like
Oh, wow.
very involved. So it's like a 2-hour sketch comedy show, almost like a movie, and they'll have like 5 mini sketch movies like within that. And it's really hilarious. It's my favorite show.
Very cool.
That was a good question.
Yeah.
I like that. I like when people get involved,
Yeah, it was actually.
in the
Thank you
chat.
for that.
What keeps flashing on your screen, Leo?
That's my camera just flashing for some reason.
Oh, it looks
Yeah.
like
He's
some
taking
kind of like,
freaking selfies.
I'm like, is there some kind of subliminal message going through there? I'm like, what's he saying?
No, I don't know if it's the cable, but it keeps on flickering, so maybe I need to try and do cable. So just to geek out a little bit, and I know I'm gonna poke the hornet's nest because I don't know too much, but what's the app of choice in your data analytics? You doing like Tableau or R or something like well above that?
Yeah, I prefer Stata. Actually, I kind of grew up on Stata, and I know it's R and Python because they're open source, but I typically just gravitate to Stata. It's like the first tool that you use and get really good with. For me, that's what I stick with. I can work with R. My preference is Stata. And typically my clients don't care, so I'm just delivering analysis to them. So it's very rarely that someone will say, oh, you have to use this instead of that. But yeah, Stata for
Stata.
me.
Have you messed with Tableau?
Yeah.
I'm lost too.
Not
Ben.
really, because like I produce like really good I produce really good graphics with Stata. So
Nice.
I've never actually felt the need for it, but I do like the pretty graphics that it makes for sure. It looks good.
That's what I like. You put the numbers in and it makes it all look pretty. So
It does absolutely. That's true enough.
I just sit here and look pretty, so
and he does that well. So good.
I literally felt like, I don't know if you guys ever watched Friends, but Joey, the guy that plays Joey Tribbiani, but he was always, when his friends would talk, he would kind of sit there and go like this. And I was thinking to myself, I kind of feel like Joey right now because I have no freaking clue what they're talking about. And I probably should have bought that book. I should have started with that one instead of the W's. I mean, I don't know.
Justin was saying, I heard TV is great over there.
Yeah, it's actually true. Like, it's pretty cheap to make TV here, and they do a ton of exports, right? So Turkish TV goes out to like 100 and some countries, and it's like a brand now because they do soap operas in particular that I think globally there isn't that much competition, and they translate well culturally because Turkey is like, it's a kind of conservative, but kind of liberal. It's right down the middle. And so their soap operas translate really, really well in like the Middle East and South America, Central America, because they're still dealing with maybe related issues, right? But like families not giving approval for marriages, right? Or I don't know, single women in the workplace, because they're actually dealing more with that stuff. So it actually ends up being like very globally appealing. I think maybe less to the US, but it's kind of a niche and a brand now. So if like people say Turkish TV, people think, oh yeah, Turkish soaps. So it's a brand, and they're very successful, and it's pretty high quality, low cost TV, and they'll make hundreds of episodes of stuff, like hundreds.
Wow.
So the content too is like, because it's cheap, right? There's this one historical TV show that has 600 episodes in just, I think, like 5 years.
Damn.
It's insane. Yeah, it's on Netflix. The amount of content they produce is crazy. It's like 2 hours like every 3 days. It's insane.
Right.
Oh wow.
That's it. I know, Jeff, you're going to see this at some point, but we're moving to Turkey to finish filming our TV series.
Oh, there you go.
Because you know what?
Yeah.
Weed smoking zombies in Turkey would be kick ass. I'm just saying.
All right.
So,
I got a question about the God Complex. I was
Sure.
checking it out over on Amazon, and I saw the reviews. Do you know Mirza?
I do not.
No? I was figuring because the last name was the same. I was like, is that your
Oh, Mirza.
mom?
Mirza. Yeah.
Mirza. I was like,
Mirza.
she
Yes, I thought
loves
you
your
said
book.
Marissa. No. That's Mirza. Yeah.
I was
That's my
reading,
uncle. Yeah.
I was reading, and her review was great because like it goes into details about the book and actually sold me on the book. I'm ordering a copy.
Awesome.
But
Appreciate
I
that.
was just then I saw the name. I was like, oh, that's messed up. I got suckered.
Yeah, oh man, there you go. See, that's stuff I've never been good at. And it's funny because like my uncle tried to sell me on marketing, right? And he's like, oh, you got to work with these people, you got to do that. I really, really struggle with that because I feel like I'm just a pure author. And it's funny, my fiance now, she was in sales, like tech sales for like a very long time, like 25 years. So she's the one who's like much more excited. We're going to get it translated. We're going to go here. We're going to do that. We're going to get you interviewed. And actually, like, I really appreciate that because I don't have that mindset for myself. Like when I'm done with a book, I don't really know what to do with it. So I just keep writing.
No, I'm real just from her review and the synopsis on your website. I was just like, this sounds really good. It's a post-apocalyptic, like
yeah, I was
I
reading.
don't know. It sounds really
the backstory
interesting.
on it. It does. It sounds actually amazing.
Yeah,
They
like
actually they both do actually.
Good. I'm
and I
glad.
want to know about the survivors outside of this like dream state colony. That is what's going on. Like all these people are stuck in kind of,
Yes.
I don't want to say like a matrix, but something like that, kind of in a coma state where they're like kept happy.
Yes. And so my idea was like very much like a positive matrix, and the idea is that everything except your brainstem gets turned off, right? So like your brainstem is where your most basic pleasures are.
Yeah.
And so when you're in this kind of matrix of pleasure, as you could think of it that way, you experience the most pleasurable things for you. So like whatever you personally find to be the best thing, right, that your body could ever feel. But these aren't complicated pleasures. It's not like, you wake up there and it's, oh, I can read any book I want. Like I can philosophize. It's like the higher parts of your brain are turned off. So when you go into that soup and you start dreaming, which is what they call it with a capital D, you really lost your consciousness, right? It's not your higher brain that's working. It's sort of your reptile brain that's being amused. But to go to your question, basically the people who are outside, and I want to like not spoil it definitely for you.
Don't spoil it.
I do want to answer your question. The people who are out there are kind of a mishmash of all the other societies that were out there. And one thing that I always kind of struggled with in apocalyptic movies was the surviving tribe would be very culturally similar, right? So like you think of like maybe Mad Max, right? It's like a monoculture. They all speak English. They all have like similar names. You can tell like they all came from like the same place basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I wanted to mess with that a little bit. So I gave my survivors like very, very, very different names, like names from like all over the world. And I wanted to emphasize that they look different from each other. They're a tribe, but they're like a very polyglot. like a sort of a multi-ethnic group of people, but they are Earth's survivors. They actually survived the thing that put an end to our civilization about 2,000 years before the book began. So they're out there. And I wanted to, I think, again, without spoilers, I wanted to create a kind of juxtaposition between like a super, super advanced world, right, where we are way, way in the future. It's the highest level of technology versus people who are still out there trying to escape storms, basically, right? So it's a Stone Age culture versus a future culture. I also wanted to see a contrast between those. And so I put that up there in the book as well.
Very cool. And folks, for you watching, listening later on, you can head to where, Leo?
Well, if you happen to check out the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us, you can find all the links for our guest there, including his website. And from there, you can hop on over to Amazon. And I believe if you are a paid Amazon Kindle Plus subscriber, whatever it is,
it's free.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But we don't want you to have it for free. We want you to buy it.
You have to, if you subscribe to like the Amazon Kindle Unlimited or whatever.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah, because Comixology,
I told him to go buy it.
Well,
listen, that's part of my job.
That's good. I appreciate that, Ben. Thank you.
That's okay.
Money's still flowing. Money's still flowing because you need a subscription for that. And I'm sure Amazon gives a.
We're coming up on the half hour. With this new computer system, do we have commercials piped in, or did we forget?
Yeah, we do.
I'm just asking.
It's the service. Asking. Well, what commercials should I run tonight?
I do want to say one thing, Leo, that I have noticed about this new system that you're running is that your camera. Is this a new camera too?
No.
Oh yeah, you look.
You
fabulous.
Dude. You look so
sharp,
so crisp. Like the
yes,
colors in your camera right now, I'm jealous.
I'm blurry. I'm like,
it's true.
Yeah, but that's because you smoked. That's because you smoked the bong before you came on. You're not blurry. It's just you.
And Rich, I'm sorry, I am a show whore.
Oh, I saw that comment.
Yeah. It's like Demir was saying. Like, I'm in the middle of a divorce, and like you find that thing that makes you feel good. And like podcasting makes me feel good. So if somebody wants me on their show helping out, I'm more than happy to be here.
Listen, I've said it 100 times and I'll say it 100 more times. You're always welcome on our show because literally, if it wasn't for you interviewing us and then Leo stealing the interview the next day, I wouldn't be up here doing this. So these two over here, both of them right there. That's the reason why Jeff and I are doing this. So if it bothers you, yell at them.
Yes.
And I just have to say, I started all this because, I wanted to do something fun after my first wife. So it was like, it's, everybody ditch the first wife and then you can do podcasting.
Make it sound so nice, Leo.
See, now the second
well, in my case, it was nice.
Yeah. So the second wife is like, who's your guest this week? I got to rewatch that one. And I'm like,
right.
Yeah.
No, my wife now is like, well, just leave me out of it. Just leave
my girlfriend is wicked supportive. She thinks this is like the bee's knees, I guess.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but
totally. Yeah, we do have commercials to run.
Oh yeah.
Do the BW.
Correct, Rich.
And I don't pick one.
Okay, here we go.
I don't care.
Coffee.
No, we already did.
Thank you for supporting Actors and Others for Animals. We started a long, long time ago. So when you find an organization like Actors and Others for Animals, it sort of unites all of those of us who want to pay back something for all the joy we get out of animals. Please keep up the good work. Believe me, it's deeply appreciated.
And here's randomly another ad.
fucked up nightmare.
There we go. Anything else, Benjamin?
No, that's good. I'm happy.
So Demir, talking about the God complex, talking about apocalypse and everything. What are your thoughts about life on Earth, as like some people think we're like on this fourth time around or something like that, where we've gone through an apocalypse before. Some people think we're like in a simulation, so bringing in the Matrix part of it. What are your thoughts on stuff like that? Did we lose you?
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that. Just from a distance, I've followed in physics. Yeah, there's some theories about this being a simulated universe, and my idea is actually a Robert E. Howard response to that, where there's a Conan story, and I want to say it's Queen of the Black Coast, actually, in which Conan is talking about philosophy, and he's kind of making fun of it, and he says, there's some people who think that, like things aren't real, and like this is like a dream, and he's like, you know what, like all I care is that, I don't know, I can taste beef on my tongue, I can taste wine, and I can have sex, and for me that's enough. Like I don't care, like, and I actually love that answer.
Yeah,
I think it's like the best answer that I can give. It's like,
fucking Conan, the most philosophical dude ever.
No, but isn't that interesting? No, that's what I'm getting it wrong, and I hope readers will look up that story. And I'm pretty sure it's Queen of the Black Coast, but something very much comes up there, right? Where he's describing how he's heard from civilized people and philosophers that, oh, is this real? Is it a dream? And he's like, if it's a dream, I don't give a shit, because it still feels good to me.
Right.
I'm still out there chasing my stuff. And in terms of, like the global situation and, all the extinctions that we've gone through, right? And maybe in the next extinction, we're going to show up. So it's not just that we are perpetuating it. We might be the victims of it too. I don't know, man. Like, I feel that it's because I'm older and I've just gone through so much pain in my own life. Like, I care much, much less than when I was a kid or when I was younger, where I felt like I had a bigger stake in it. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be one of those people in a horror movie who would just be like, well, let me have my beer and, I don't know, smoke my last cigarette. Because really, that's all I care about. I don't have that bigger stake anymore. It's just, that's how it feels to me.
No, I see now, Judge. I don't think he would get killed first. It's always the blonde who trips over the air that gets killed first.
The stoner and the black guy get killed first.
That's true as well, man. That's right.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, wow. I'm going down in the first 5 minutes. I know. I'm like, if there's a serial killer out there, I'm dead. But I'm gonna be high as hell and happy about it.
See, there you go. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Or if it's nuclear, we're close enough to the military bases.
Well, that's my biggest thing. Like the apocalypse thing. Like, say if, like, I don't know, half the world disappears. Like, I was watching one of those, what would really happen, and like we have so many nuclear power plants and stuff like that. Without them being run properly, it really would be an apocalypse within a few days. Like, the world would be destroyed.
It wouldn't take much. It would take less than what we think.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
I mean, the world would come back, but we wouldn't be. Most of us, at least, wouldn't be around for it.
That's right. And would we want to be? That's the question.
Probably
not. I would, just for a little while, just to see what it was like.
Curiosity, right? Yeah.
Curiosity, yeah. I'm one of those. I'm a very curious person when it comes to stuff like that.
Be down with time travel.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Just jump in, check it out for a little while.
Yep.
And come back, right? Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about the God complex. But let's talk a little bit more about your newer book, Callie. Can you give us some background behind what's going on in that book without giving away spoilers?
No problem.
If you don't mind.
The genesis of that idea was actually, I don't know, my thought about whether the earth deserves saving, right? And this is something that comes up a lot in comic books, it comes up in science fiction, And there's always this a cynical point of view, right? There's always this person saying, is it worth it? Like, do we save it? Should we save it? And it made me think of something that I hadn't for a long time, which is Kali, the Hindu goddess of death, right?
Mhm.
And the thing about her and how she works in mythology is when you summon her, like when she gets summoned, it's because things have really gone to shit, like terribly, like even the gods can't figure it out. So they bring her. But the problem with bringing her is she doesn't think it's all worth saving. So, like she'll come and she'll destroy, I don't know, something evil, right? Like a demon who's threatening to take over the world, but she'll trample over a lot of other stuff too. So she's like this real wild card where, she doesn't just come in like a surgeon, right? To just take out sort of the bad thing. I love that idea that, what if we put this goddess, right? Goddess of destruction right in the middle of our world. What would she consider worth saving? And what would she try to destroy? And what I kind of plug that into, and this isn't really a spoiler, it's the first chapter of the book. It doesn't give away all that much. The triggering inciting event is a sort of a corporate robber baron who ends up destroying a village in India because his chemical factory hasn't been properly prepared. It isn't vetted. So because of that, 7,000 people die. And I actually was thinking about a real disaster, the Union Carbide disaster in Bhopal, India, in the 80s, which killed about that many people actually. And the guy who was the CEO, he was he was indicted in India, but of course, he lives in the US. There's no mechanism to ever have him be responsible for that. But in my book, I made him more of an actual villain. Like this is something that he's more responsible for. And what happens in that village is that there's one survivor, one only, and he decides to pray for Kali to show up and take vengeance on the man who did that to his village. What then makes it interesting for me is that man is himself connected to a company that's a very large company, right? So it's not just one person that, I want revenge on this guy. This guy's embedded within a company, and his own son is a criminal. And his connections to a woman here, an American woman actually, end up sort of driving the story along. So there's a man and it's very, I guess, global too, you could say, because a man in India wishes for Kali to arrive and avenge his village. But guess what? She arrives into the body of an American woman who's a veteran, who's a bereaved single, was a mother, but loses her son. And so she's in a state of deep sadness. At the same time, the sort of science fiction element of it is that this woman, the vet, she's been subject to an experiment that gives her really accelerated healing powers. So when Kali inhabits her, normally Kali burns through human bodies because she's a goddess, right? So she can't inhabit long. But this woman, Tess, the one she inhabits, has this self-healing body, so she can really inhabit her for as long as she wants. And they make a kind of a dangerous combination because we have a female goddess avenger who's not very happy with civilization in the body of a mother who's lost her son and who's grieving, right? So what happens when you put these two women together and drop them in the middle of Manhattan?
And highly trained.
Yeah.
Yes, but another thing about Kali that I should emphasize is she's not just a spirit; she's 20 feet tall and essentially invulnerable. Right, so she's like a giant. So she arrives in our world, and she can't be really taken down with, I don't know, conventional weaponry. So it's also, if you can envision, it's not like a normal sized person. And over the course of the book, she grows bigger and bigger and bigger. Her anger makes her bigger. So yeah, that's the story in a nutshell. But
that is cool.
Yeah.
So the concepts of both your books are very unique, and just I just love them. Have you thought about maybe taking some parts of the books or maybe writing some additional stories and teaming up with like an artist and doing like a comic?
All the time, and I gotta tell you, I'm just so influenced by that. It's just my world is so small. Like I don't know too many people. I joined Facebook like the week I got divorced, like at the end of like 2021. Before then, I don't know. I had my 10 friends on Facebook, and I deleted my account. But it's just much more recently that I'm trying to expand my community because I definitely see my work also as visual, and I love comic books, like absolutely. Even though I'm a novelist. Like I don't know, if I had to pick the best living writer, who's not me, I would pick Alan Moore.
There you go.
I'd pick Alan Moore, and I wouldn't pick him for his novels either. I'd pick him for for Swamp Thing. I'd pick him for Miracle Man. You know, like, so for me, I pick Frank Miller and his dialogue. I pick Al Ewing and the Immortal Hulk, or Ram V, who's doing Swamp Thing right now. Like, I consider these people to be serious writers. And so, I mean, the brief answer to your question is yes. And I think over time now, because especially I've been rejected by a lot of agents, I will want to do adaptations. And I very, very much want to do graphic novel stuff. It's just, I need to know more people to make that happen.
Well, I gotta say, you're looking at 3 right here that can definitely help you with all aspects of that.
That would be so wonderful, guys. I would appreciate that so much.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you know that or know this, but this broadcast show is a spin-off of a comic book series that me and my other co-host co-created, which is right there.
Yeah,
that's issue 1. We just came out with the 5th issue, so we've worked with a lot of artists. Leo being the
artist of this was on just 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, the artist of the cover.
The cover artist, yeah.
The cover artist, who was Joe St. Pierre. He did all the number 1 selling Spider-Man covers in history for Marvel.
He's on record for having the most number 1 covers.
Most number 1 covers
for
Marvel.
Yeah.
For Spider-Man.
I'm sorry. Yep.
That's okay. Nice. Listen, hey, I mean, I know now we're going to dork out because I know the artists that we have worked with over the past 4.5 years. But
your recent artist, Dal Merge, is amazing as well.
Oh my God, Dal, dude, he is freaking amazing. Amazing. We totally scored when he decided he wanted to become the in-house artist for us. I mean, like, he is just issue 4 and 5, man. See you later. Cover to cover. Done. Insane. Great artist. But yes, in all seriousness, Demir, if that's something that you'd like to entertain, you can reach out to any one of the 3 of us, and we can put you in touch with, artists. If you're having difficulty storyboarding, you could always give me a shout because I storyboard with my co-host all of our comics.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. No, I appreciate it, guys. I'll definitely follow up with that. Yeah. For sure.
But this isn't about us tonight. This is about this gentleman right here who stayed up past 2 a.m. in Istanbul, Turkey, folks.
All right, I'm asking the Dork question now. Do you collect anything, Demir? Are you a collector of comics or toys?
Yeah, I should not probably confess to this, man. I look at, unfortunately, pirate comic sites because I don't have the money to collect anymore, and I don't know. I don't want to confess to it, but it's the truth, man. It's the dark truth. And I also live in Turkey, right? And so the thing is, like, there's almost no comic books here. There's zero comic book culture. What they do is they translate some of the bigger graphic novels into Turkish. Like just the other day, I was in the equivalent of Turkey's Barnes and Noble, and they had Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run as a trade translated into Turkish. He's actually, a lot of people know Alan Moore in Turkey because his stuff gets translated more often than anyone else's. But I don't. I used to, when I was a kid, I used to collect the X-Men, and I had like a huge collection, but I sold it when I went to college because I needed money. And you know what's sad now is I can't remember why I needed the money, which is unfortunate. I remember that. I just remember that I ditched it, and I had a run going back to like the 80s, I think. Not the 1980s, but somewhere in Uncanny X-Men 80s, all the way up to, I think, the mid 200s. Like all the way, if you remember I think not the Mutant Massacre. I don't know if you guys remember. So there later Chris Claremont stories where where the X-Men they get destroyed in Dallas and they get like resurrected. I can't remember the Fall of the Mutants. Yeah, that's where my collection ended, and I only had a few gaps there. So that was a pretty big, that was pretty big. But yeah, I ditched it. I sold it.
and nothing wrong with reading them online. It's I subscribe to. There's 3 main services. There's Comixology, Marvel Unlimited, and DC. And half the time, it's just easier to find it on one of the other sites than use those because their libraries are such a mess, or there's gaps, and you got to go from one service to the other.
They take a year to put them out.
Oh yeah.
Plus, I have like a curiosity about like some really expensive comic books too, right? Like I don't know. Yeah. I want to look at X-Men #2. Like I want to do that. And so how am I going to do that? I bought a subscription for my kids who are 14. They're twins, and they go on Marvel all the time, and they'll come and say, well, this Venom issue isn't there, or oh wait, Secret Wars 1 is missing. Like stuff that I've told them about, and they're just like, wait, that's not there, or wait, you have to pay $6 for that, and the other one's free. So it's not like a reader oriented experience either.
No, especially since they got bought out by Amazon Comixology. It's just complete mess. It's which is sad, it's just but I hear Plex may be starting to do comics, so that'd be interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, somebody sent me an article on it. I need to read into it, but
plus, like, I want to throw this out there. I mean, some of the more extreme comics, like, I don't think you're going to find them on the paid sites either, right? I don't know. I'm thinking about Faust or Crossed. Those are just like two of the comic books that were like influential for me. I don't know if you guys have read those or followed those.
I've read Crossed.
Yeah, Crossed. And I want to say it's Garth Ennis, but it's pretty extreme horror. And then there was Faust, which was, I think, I can't remember, Quinn and Miller. I can't remember the artist of that, but it was basically what was fun about Faust was what happens when you take Wolverine and you put him into essentially an X-rated environment where anything goes, right? So like you see the damage that something like that would do, like to a real body in real life. So that kind of stuff. Anyway, you can go back and find, I don't know, DC horror comics because they're pretty tame, but a lot of the horror comics that I follow aren't. And so I'm pretty sure you're not going to get those on those services, right?
Yeah, I'm actually reading Invincible right now, and that's not on those services. It might be on Comixology. I'm not sure, but
I think what's interesting with The Boys, I don't know what you guys think about this, but one of the things that's interesting about The Boys and Garth Ennis is there's a lot of extreme stuff there, but because of the Amazon show and the popularity of the comic book, it isn't sort of in that dark zone anymore. Like a lot of people know about The Boys who ordinarily wouldn't, because that level of violence is not normally associated with something that popular. And I'm even thinking about, when you think about The Walking Dead, for example, you think about the comic book, it's really not that extreme. It's not. I mean, I enjoy The Walking Dead, but like The Boys has stuff in it that's like insane when you think about it.
Have you seen
The Walking Dead was pretty tame. I mean, a lot of people died in it, but like it was never like super gory. It was more like, oh, we killed a bunch of zombies, and you're not really worried about zombies being killed. In The Boys, you're watching, citizens walking around getting ripped apart.
Yeah,
exactly.
The mini series they did is just absolutely insane. The cartoon. Have you seen that?
I think I watched that.
It's friggin' bonkers. Holy.
Oh yeah. Diabolical.
Yep, diabolical.
Yep.
And Walking Dead is just a money grab right now.
I don't watch that at all.
Well, yeah, it's still on, and they're doing some. The last season they split off into 3 parts, but it's the comic. They started reprinting the comic, but colorized.
In color.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I heard about that.
Yeah, calling it deluxe.
Well, they did that for a while. They were doing the once it had gotten really popular, they started redoing it as
popular,
the weekly or something like that. Walking Dead bi-weekly.
That show was popular.
Well, no, not the show. The comic book, because it got so expensive. You guys had your own fun with them. Is there some kind of non-disclosure?
For 2.5 years, we had fun with them. So yeah. Anyways, the hell with that, and back to our amazing guest.
Hey, Jeremy just asked our guest if he collects anything. It went to comics, nothing wrong with that.
It went to comics, and then it went to the TV show, and then to their comics, and then it was over here to the two-sided of the dorkiness, and our poor guest is over here going, or actually maybe that was me. If I had little emojis that I could put up behind me right now, there would be a bunch of little Z's. Like, okay, back to the guest. What the hell was that?
That was my alarm.
I think it's the alarm.
Oh.
Yeah, I need to take my pill.
Oh, we'll take your pill.
I'm going to take my pill.
Oh, okay.
So are you still working on you're done with Callie. Callie's out, right?
Yep, it's been out for a while. Sometime last year, it all blurs together. Last year was just a terrible year for me. I'm working on on my third novel now, but yeah, Collie's out there, and I think it'll be interesting if ever I accumulate readers who read both of them, because they're very, very different stories.
Yeah.
And I think that yeah, stylistically you might be able to tell it's me, but yeah, Leo, I think it was you. That yeah, it takes me a really long time to come up with my setups, because I'm not like, I don't know. I don't want to run him down. Maybe it's a bad thing to say, but I'm thinking about Stephen King, and it's like, okay, dog attacks someone, octopus attacks someone, clown attacks someone. And it's like, and then you fill in. I don't have that. Like for me, it's always a character, and then a very strange world that they live in, and somehow that character and that world have to be completely wedded to each other. Like it, like for example, for Kali, I didn't start out by saying Hindu goddess ravages the world. I actually started out by saying, what would happen if a bereaved mother had a lot of power to do damage, right? So this is not like, I don't know, a highway sniper, but what if this is someone who actually has almost a cosmic level of power? What does she do in that state of sadness, for example? Does she still have a conscience? Like, what does she want to you know what I mean? So it's for me, it's like character first, and then it's like the layer of speculative fiction is, how do I raise the intensity of an emotional experience, right? So I mean, think of it this way: you're going through something sad. What would happen if, I don't know, you're a superhero and you have the power to destroy a city, like in the middle of your sadness? Like, what do you do with that? For me, it's the emotion that comes first, and then that secondary question is, I guess, what you'd call the high concept. But for a lot of people, the concept comes first. It's like, oh, I want the city to be destroyed. Now I'm just going to dump a bunch of generic characters in there to make that premise work. And that's not how I work.
Wow.
So if you had the power, would you be good or would you be evil?
I've actually thought about it, and I think really both. And I actually, it's a great question, Jeremy.
Depends
One
on
of
whose
the
side of me you're on. If you're my friend, everything's good.
well, one of the what's kind of related to this is, it's probably my favorite line in horror fiction. It's a line from The Hellbound Heart, the original of Hellraiser. It's the short story from which Clive Barker does Hellraiser. And when the Cenobites show up for the first time to Frank, he says, "What are you?" Because he's very confused by how they look. He'd expected women, actually, right? Like slave women to come and pleasure him, but he sees the Cenobites. He says, "What are you?" And the Pinhead character says, "Angels to some, demons to others." And that like really stuck with me too. You said, would you be good or would you be bad? And like sometimes, like I feel this too. It's like, uh, absolutely, it's a question of perspective, right? There are people you're super close to, there are people you're not. And I know I'm thinking about like how my own divorce felt, and one of the emotions that kind of drove me to the edge was thinking, well, it turned out that all these things I thought this person wasn't capable of doing or wasn't willing to do actually existed, but just not for me. And that made me think of Clive Barker's line like a whole lot: angels to some, demons to others. Right? It's not like just a person going through life, and it's a homogenous experience, right? They're the same person to everybody. That same person that can just be a demon and destroy you, to somebody else, that's their angel.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Very well
Thanks.
said. So, like we've mentioned before, the God Complex is out. Callie is out. You can find that in
the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us.
And that's what we pay him for, folks.
Yeah.
And you mentioned,
wait, I get paid? What?
Hold on.
Oh no, wait, that's why you pay us. That's right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, my bad.
Okay.
Anyway, you're working on your third book or your third novel.
Yes.
Are we going to see a series?
Would you be inclined to give a little taste to the
Yeah,
viewers
absolutely.
of maybe what it's about, to look for, or don't
Yeah.
want to put you on the spot?
No, I'll do it. It's a pretty wacky idea, but I'll put it out there. The idea is about a scientist whose wife dies, and he's a brain scientist, so that's what he does. But what he discovers is a way to enter the thoughts of the dead. So people who've already been dead, their thoughts have gone out into the universe. And by the way, I don't want to take credit for this idea. I'm very influenced by, I think, his Miracle Man 16, where Neil Gaiman took over from Alan Moore. And one of the ways that they were able to resurrect people was to actually bring their brain waves back from space. Like there was this alien race that was able to actually like find your brain waves, which had never died. They just gone across the universe and pull them back and put them into a body. So like that's how they resurrected you. So yeah, I want to give full credit there. That was the genesis of that idea.
Actually, there's. I'll let you continue. Then I'll find the actual word for it.
Okay, so yeah, my idea was that this man, his wife dies, and when she dies, he's still in love with her. He misses her a whole lot, but then he discovers that she hadn't loved him, and she'd had a very long affair with somebody else. And what he does with his power is he brings her thoughts back, but he enters her thoughts to punish her.
Oh wow!
Oh,
so
I like
that part is like if you think about the cell a little bit. That's what he does. But here's let me give you even more of a concept.
Now,
He enters her thoughts to punish her.
Is the consciousness put into? Is it left inside like a brain, or is it in a body that's
No. It's like it's in a computer. It's in a computer.
Oh,
So
okay,
basically, he's
wow.
captured all of her thoughts, right? Every thought she's ever had, and he's able to go in there. And by the way, it's not just to punish her. He goes in there because it's the ultimate. He's missing closure, so he wants to go in there and say why. But guess what? Because he has a lot of power, it doesn't stay with just asking why. He actually has the ability to make her pay. And so when he's doing that, unfortunately, one of the things that happens is Earth itself starts to become unstable because of the physics that he's messing with. Like things start to disappear. Like a big chunk of Denver disappears because of this thing that he's doing. And so they actually have to like assemble a team of people to go into the computer with him to convince him to stop doing what he's doing or to kill him, because otherwise the whole Earth is going to vanish. So that's the story.
Wow. I'm very intrigued by that one.
I want to live inside your brain for like 10 minutes.
Right?
That's some weird shit.
Right? I love the thing I love about our show is being able to talk to authors and creators and really listen to how they come up with these things behind it. You know what I mean? It blows my mind because nobody is ever the same.
No.
Ever.
The creative process is very strange for everybody.
I'm very open about like stuff with my premises. Like, here I was thinking about, I very much remember that scene from Miracle Man, and I always knew that I was going to do something with that. But, if you take that and you add it to my divorce, and then you add sort of the third step, which I already know the ending. I'm not going to consider this a spoiler because who knows when it'll come out or if it'll come out. But the idea is to talk this man out of what he's doing. Right. So I thought the final stage of this book is acceptance. Yeah. Basically, he has to choose between his ability to satisfy himself with whatever vengeance he's pursuing or to let go. And I always thought that was, for me, that's a fascinating end to a story. A villain getting talked out of it, like basically someone saying yes. And the way it works is the woman who sent in there after him, she experienced something similar. And it turns out that when she shares her experience with him, that the catharsis that it provides actually brings him off that ledge where he doesn't have to do that thing anymore. Mm. It's that human touch that actually brings him back.
Wow.
Because they try all this other stuff, right? They try to stop him with weapons. They try to stop him with like viruses. They do all this stuff, but in the end, it's just a woman who sits down and spends 10 minutes talking to him that gets him to stop.
Demir, you're not allowed to talk anymore. You're going to give away the whole story. Not that I'm not enjoying this.
I know. It's like, wow,
I'm sitting here. I'm like, okay, yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Well, basically, he just gave you 12 pages of a 300 and something page book, maybe?
It's going to be about that, yeah.
So, yeah, you're still going to have to buy the book.
Now,
sorry.
Do you do cons to push this stuff or anything like that?
It's funny. I actually had 2 lined up, but again, I know this comes up a lot, but this was before my divorce and before I left America. So I had 2 lined up. I was even going to take my daughter to one of them because she's published her own book. Actually, an agent is also looking at it now. Yeah. But yeah, once I left, it's like, I didn't do that. And so in the future, my fiance and I are most likely going to come back to the US maybe in the next year and a half. That's where I'm going to get more aggressive with that for sure. But yeah, for now I'm just here writing and surviving.
You planning going back to Colorado or?
It's funny, I'm wide open now, because for a long time I was tied to my kids, but we miss LA. Actually, and I should put this out there. My fiance now is my first wife. So we were married for 3 months in 2001.
Wow.
And then I found her again at the end of 2021. So almost exactly 20 years later.
Oh, wow.
And yes. And so we're back together. If you ever go, if any of you know my Facebook page and you scroll down, I actually have a picture of her marriage 20 years apart.
Oh, wow.
Well, I didn't see that one.
Our engagement ceremony and our marriage, right? So it's us, but 20 years apart, which is, I think, an amazing picture. If anyone wants to go,
I'm gonna have to scroll. I'm gonna have to scroll through your Facebook and find that. I mean, because I do see a lot of your posts.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like living vicariously through you as you're taking pictures of different places in Turkey and stuff, and I'm going, man, I want to be there. Like, I so want to be there, but I can't. And like I said, I've seen some of your lifting video shorts that you do, or
I put those out there.
I'm like, wow, this dude is, you guys are only seeing from here up, but if you go to his Facebook page and see some of his lifting videos, he is no joke. He's
it's
no
like
joke.
Carrot Top.
Just to dork out for a second to rewind about the thoughts in the universe and everything. So I found the name of what was on the top of my head. It's actually the Akashic Records. It's something from Buddhism. And it's the thought that all events, it's like a universal thought that we all share. It's like a universal consciousness that we can tap into. Like all events, past, future, are like all intertwined with all knowledge.
Yes.
It's like a stream of consciousness out there that we can possibly access.
Absolutely. And if to tie to horror, if you guys, if you look at Altered States, for example, it's very much that with a plot, this idea that we all have the same story playing in our heads and we're still cavemen too. And we're even that still first cell, right? It's still in us somewhere, the thoughts and fears of everything that we've been. I love that idea and that interconnection. See, that's the kind of stuff that gets me excited. Unfortunately, I think in our genre, a lot of people don't, like they don't start with that kind of stuff. Like to me, that idea is exciting. And now I'm looking for a horror premise. But if you start with the premise, you're going to miss depth somewhere for me. You know what I mean? Because it's like that idea is so rich. Like out of that, you get character, you get plot, you get so much. That's why it takes me forever to come up with ideas. Some people have, 6 ideas a year. I've been, over the past 8 years, I've had 3 ideas that are worth novels.
Well, I got to say, from what I've seen, heard, and hopefully will read soon, they're pretty kick-ass novels.
Oh, hell yeah.
I appreciate that. I mean, I don't want to write for the sake of writing. Like I only write novels when I'm so excited that I can't sleep. I can't sleep unless I work on that idea. To me, that's the test of it. If I'm sleepwalking through it, then it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So basically what he's saying is he's enjoying the show because it's like 2:15 a.m. right now.
No, it's 3:15.
Oh, it's 3:15 a.m. in Turkey, and he is still awake and he's still smiling. So
I love it, man. I love you guys. It's been a lot of fun. I love it.
We've had a blast. I know, Leo, you got another show tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say let's give another 2 minutes to this one, and then we'll wrap it out.
Sounds so good. Sounds good. Jeremy, you gonna join us?
What time?
9 o'clock.
What are we doing?
JJ Cohen from Back to the Future.
Oh damn.
Skinhead, yes.
Let me check in with the woman.
No, sounds good. Sounds good.
Let me check in with the woman.
Well, going through a divorce, don't want to get into another one before I finish the first one.
True that. I'll give you that one.
Hey, happy wife, happy life,
Yeah.
Right. So, like I said, folks, we've got about 2 more minutes with this amazing author. questions, comments, get them in the chat. Otherwise, you snooze, you lose.
Yeah, but bunch of people watching. There's been a
there's a
lot
ton
of
of people.
comments. So, just if you have questions, just throw them in there, and we'll get to them.
Jeremy, what about you? You got any last questions for this amazing guest?
I think I went through most of my stuff. Hold on. I do have notes. I keep notes.
I already threw my notes away. I was like halfway through the show. I was like, the hell with this.
I think I'm pretty much. Yeah, I think I pretty much covered everything. Like, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Last question I had. Actually, it's a two-parter. One,
I knew it was.
All right. For people that are looking to, they have ideas in their head, they want to get them out. What are some of your processes that you would recommend somebody to start writing? And second part of that is there any application that you use or that you like to use, like Scrivener or anything like that, for writing?
Okay. I just use Word. I'm pretty straightforward. And just to save time, I already have sort of the Amazon template, which I write in because,
nice.
that's the one I'm going to publish. So what I like about that is I see exactly how it's going to come out when it's on Amazon, right? So the pagination and the font and everything is already all set. So that's a little shortcut for me so that when I finish, I don't have to take another week reformatting it for Amazon. In terms of my advice, I gave the same advice to my daughter too, let her finish her book. I write a page a day. It's like an iron rule for me. And if I go crazy, I write maybe 2 pages, because motivation doesn't trump habit. And, like I've had those days where, I wrote like 15 pages and then I write nothing for 2 months. And so the way to move forward and to tell your story is to tell it really 1 page at a time, but to never go backwards. And also, I think to just add on to that is that's what lets you finish. But to add on to that, if you have a very strict chapter structure in your head as an author, you should be able to say, you know what, in chapter 2, these people are going to meet. And so guess what? If you're like halfway through that chapter, oh, now I want them to go out for coffee or do something different. Don't leave that chapter until you finish your business. Right. So what happens is if it's going to get deeper and deeper and deeper because the first day you work in that chapter, they just met. The second day you put in the emotions when they met. The third day you put in their thoughts when they met. So depth comes from that. But if you get out of your chapters too quickly, if you advance your plot too quickly, you lose that depth. So all my chapters, for example, are the same length because I want to know when I'm done. Like, oh, that chapter is 8 pages and the next one's like 25 pages. They're all the same length. So I know when I'm done and what I'm working towards.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Then I don't get frustrated. I fill it out and then I can move on to the next chapter.
I kind of write the same way, to be honest.
Yeah. I think that works for us, right?
Yeah. The comic book series actually was written as a book series. So we just ended the first book, but we decided to go, I guess, flip of what you did. You're writing the books, and you could really pull some great comic books from those books. We wrote the book instead of publishing it, pulled the comics first.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? Hopefully 2022 will be the year that we actually strike the book deal because it's actually
knock on wood. I wish you the best of luck.
Best of luck. So that's actually a great question, Leo, and a great answer from Demir.
Thank you.
So follow-up question: how does one get on Amazon? You said you can download their template, but if you're gonna sell a book on Amazon, how difficult is the process?
It's very easy. It's very streamlined. I think it's called Kindle Direct Publishing, and you can sign in with your regular Amazon information. Once you're there, what they just ask you for is your book in a template, which you can kind of download their Microsoft Word template if you want. You can kind of pick the font and how it should look. You put your stuff in there. You need a cover and you need your back cover. And so you can use your art or you can use their design template. Like for the God Complex, I actually did pay someone for the front cover and the back. I got my own design. But for Kali, if you're looking at that, it's a generic Amazon template. I didn't pay anyone for that. It's very, very easy. So by the time I did it for the second time, it didn't take me more than an hour. You price it yourself, and you put out your Kindle edition, you put out your paperback, And you can change prices depending on if you want to sell it in different countries. I just pick like the same price, for every country, and then you can choose to have it free through the Kindle, what's it called, the subscription. But yeah, no, to answer your question, like a new person can figure that out in a couple of days.
Okay.
And you can have your book like from your hard drive to Amazon, and honestly less than a day if you're motivated.
Nice. Wow. I was just asking because my sister recently passed away, and we found she had, I don't know, it's like 75 so far poems that she's written. And, for her memory, my mom wanted me to put them together and see if we can get them on Amazon. But it's, it's going to be getting that into the computer first. But it's just crazy that she was just there sitting, writing, and didn't really share with anybody. Crazy stuff.
Yeah,
I've only shared a few, as has Jeff.
Yeah.
Very
cool. Well, I know we are at time.
Yep.
So we'll wrap things up. Hopefully I hit the right buttons. I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. And holy crap, my lights just went on. So for me, just Google Leo Pond. You find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which, but I run a little thing called the Dorkening Podcast Network. We got a crap ton of shows, a lot of awesome people doing a lot of awesome stuff. Matter of fact, we're going to be live at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight, talking with JJ Cohen from Back to the Future, and he wants to talk about some of the other stuff he's done, like The Principal and Fire with Fire and stuff like that. So Demir, where do you like people interacting with you on social media?
I'm pretty active on Facebook. I have a lot of friends there. So Facebook is probably much better for me.
Cool beans. Jar.
Facebook, Instagram, and always check out Comic Book Lovers Buy, Sell, Trade, and Auction. Largest Facebook buy, sell, trade, and comic book, blah, blah, blah. I lost it.
Yeah, you were going good for a minute there.
Benjamin.
So, stilltoking.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Tumblr. I haven't mentioned this in a while, but I think we had a MySpace at one point, so I think we might be there. But I don't really use that anymore, so I don't know what's there.
You never know; it might come back.
It might. That's why I put it out there. Definitely want to thank Demir for taking time out of his sleep to come to us from Istanbul, Turkey, folks. I mean,
not Constantinople.
That's right.
To all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do every day so people like us can do what we do. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. We're out of here.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
So come on.